BBC people, we talked about that last week, how they literally manipulated video evidence of Donald Trump, pretending he was promoting violence. They got caught. It was a lie. What I don't understand is why it took so long for this to happen. But the BBC director, I guess he's the past General Tim Davie, I think is how you say his name, and BBC News CEO Deborah Turnus both had to resign following the report the editors literally manipulated video. They doctored Trump's speech, making it sound like he incited violence before the speech. It was a flat-out lie. Anyway, an internal UK government report confirmed the misleading editing, stating that they had a panorama slice of clips that were edited together to create a false narrative, to falsely suggest that Trump called for violence when he literally called for a peaceful protest.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
News agency that sliced and diced the presentation that Trump made on January 20th, 2021, that made it look like he was an insurrectionist. The truth of the matter is, by the way, that nobody's been convicted of insurrection under any of the insurrection laws, and this didn't happen, and it was a complete fabrication. And it's kind of as egregious, in my opinion, as this new movement to AI. AI is, I mean, they can make anybody look like they're sane and make their voice sound like they're sane. And I think we've really got to be on our guard. And you know, Ronald Reagan coined a term, you know, trust but verify. My adage has always been distrust until verified. And so virtually every one of these things that comes out, I have to do some digging, and most people aren't willing to do that. But I think that that's going to become more and more and more a situation that's critical. I mean, we have instances, for example, where we have medical advice being given on the internet that sounds like a person that should know. We have legal advice that sounds like a person that should know. It's all created nonsense. And I just have to say it's AI Bravo Sierra most of the time when I see these things now. But part of the problem is I spoke with someone the other day that spent some time in the emergency room, and they got all the reports out of it. And they said, this didn't happen, this didn't happen, this didn't happen. And they started going through their reports. They took the effort to get the reports and review them. And finally, it came down to that they were all AI generated. So there's just so many false spins being put on everything. This news thing is I think, a word to the wise to say distrust until verified. And it's cool that they finally got caught. But I think the U.S. news media, they had cameras rolling and recordings on when Trump was speaking, and somebody said, "Here's what's being put out in England. Isn't it amazing that the speech actually went this way?" And there could have been a correction.
Well, the United States media, too, and we need to dig into this further, really perpetuated that same kind of a narrative. Whether they used the exact footage or not, or created their own footage, that's a problem. I don't know. We need to back into the mainstream press and their coverage on a lot of this, too. But I think they all committed fraud because, look, it took 4 years for us almost 5 years for us to come up with this. And now these guys resign 5 years later. When are when are they going to have to, pay back the amount of money they got for 5 years? All I'm saying is that even the UK government report confirmed the misleading editing. And so we need to back into the United States side of those discussions, and we need to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law all these people involved. Before to the end of the hour, I want to highlight another article for Dr. Bradley to comment on. I think this is a sad tale in America for sure, and I got a different 100% 180-degree solution from Trump on this. Headline says, Trump has proposed introducing 50-year mortgage terms, attracting significant backlash. And you got to go, I wonder why. Well, because it's a clown show. That's why. The last thing we need are longer mortgages for people to pay just tremendous amount of interest. It's out of control. The FHA director, Bill Polt is the guy's name, confirmed that the administration effort wants to, put this plan in place. Critics argue that these extended mortgages could really cause problems here. They say the debt levels will just be through the roof. Some, like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, voiced concerns about financial burdens on homeowners. Supporters claim it could improve housing affordability. Details on the implementation and the timeline at this point remain unclear. Current households spend an average of 38+% of their income on mortgage payments. That's absolutely out of control and unsustainable, by the way. Trump is considering taking Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and turning them into public institutions. He regards the financial performance of these groups favorable, and he believes it's perfect time to do this. I couldn't disagree more, Dr. Bradley. What we need to do is open up a bunch of land in the West and get it back from the federal government controlling most of the land in the West so people could actually buy land at affordable costs, number one. Number two, we need to back off on all the mandated guidelines of home, ownership and build. Hey, we got zoning. We've got massive homeowners associations, HOA fees. We've got to where it's just absolutely unsustainable. We need to go the opposite direction. Decentralize, decrease costs and regulations, let interest rates regulate themselves. Private people could, bring a lot of loans to the table. Seller or for sale by owner or owner financed could make a big difference. An owner could make 5% interest or 4% interest and be delighted to get it. There's so many ways to go about this, but we're going about it the wrong way, keeping people in debt longer, having them pay tremendously more interest. It's a disaster. And what it really means is no one will be able to own homes for future generations if we allow this to stand. I'm never going to own a house. So I can either, one, do one of these 50-year mortgages and have something nicer, or live in an apartment at somebody else's behest, or live in somewhere else at somebody else's behest. When you have two negative choices like that, people make a choice that at first sounds like, there's no common sense to it, but they're just like, hey, at least for the next 50 years or the next 20 years till I die, whatever the time frame be, I'll have a better quality of living in the meantime, and if I'm not going to own anything, what's the difference? To some degree, that's right when you give people no good options.
Yeah, right. It's like A, B, C, and D are all bad options. They're,
That's
common
correct.
core kinds of options. But the thing is that you say, I fully support the getting the federal government being out of the landlord business. And they own a vast amount of property. They claim it anyway. They don't own it, and it's unconstitutional and all this kind of stuff. And that needs to be corrected. And by the way, that's how Andy Jackson got the United States out of debt to begin with. The first and only time the United States has been out of debt is by selling federal lands. But I would put a little stopgap in there. A little. It's got to be major. No foreign ownership. See, China could come in and buy up all that land and say, hey, I now own the United States. And that was not, foreign ownership was something they were concerned about clear back in the founding era. And that we've created an
rightly
environment.
So then and rightly so now, Doctor.
Absolutely. And so we would have to put some, caveats and protections in there so that it didn't all get bought up. And here's an issue. It's called stewardship. And it's a natural law issue. If you have a home, you have a responsibility to take care of it. You've got a family, you take care of them. You've got stewardship over that. And there are some people now, and the general government's one of them, and that is they claim ownership, but they're really bad stewards. They have a really crappy approach to handle all this vast, tracts of land that they have. So they do a poor job. And what actually happens if you have ownership is you recognize that, I take care of my forest, or I take care of my watershed, or whatever, because my children will inherit that. And
because I have to live in it.
That's right. And so there's a whole bunch of things that could be corrected if the suggestion that the general government get out of the landlord business, and it would make a great deal more land available, but again, put some safeguards in there so that China doesn't pick it all up or something like that.
Yeah. So create a level playing field, create a situation that protects America, do so by law, then get the government out of the loan business entirely. Let interest rates fall where they may based on supply and demand and realism. Let Americans get enough land to where we can actually, buy land at reasonable costs. The reason land is cheaper in the Midwest and in the South is because they don't have all these, west of the Mississippi kind of scenarios where the government owns all the land. Look at the equal footing clauses and let's get, land in the hands of the American people. Let's decrease the mandates by government. I mean, you could do 3D printing, you could do manufactured homes, you could do home ownership could be very easy if we just had government create a level playing field and get out the way. And the sooner that happens, the better. Dr. Bradley's right that it needs to be done correctly, but I think if you can get government out of the way, so I support getting rid of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac at the government level. I reject the 50-year mortgage plan. I think that's a disaster. I think we need to go more towards 15 and 10-year mortgage plans, if at all, and let people not have compound interest. Let them have simple interest. And if you did that, then the people lending the money can get some interest, but it wouldn't be abusive usury. And hey, until we realize that is dishonest manipulation of money, fake money, the Federal Reserve at the core of all this, the inflation would go away, real prices, real value for value would take place, supply and demand would be king once again, not government manipulations or subsidizing, etc. These are the answers. Go back to the free market of the Founding Fathers, understand what they were concerned about and why. I mean, that's the solution, Doctor. It's all available at freedomsrisingsun.com. For Dr. Bradley, and I'm Sam Bushman. We love liberty, ladies and gentlemen. We're syndicated by the Loving Liberty Networks, lovingliberty.net. Spread the word, show the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America.